So thanks for coming. Lucky me, it's before the main party, so everybody in a much better shape. Tomorrow it would be probably harder. My name is Nadav, and I'm the VP of Global Partnership and Sales at ironSource. And I'm going to take the next 20-25 minutes to speak about ad monetization and how you can enhance ad monetization strategy with your user experience strategy and to kind of improve both of them together. I'll start with the gap that I see, and this is what led me to speak about this topic, is that although ad monetization became a super important activity for all game developers, right? Definitely for hyper-casual, where 100% of the revenue comes from ads, but even for any other game, ad monetization became a significant part of the revenue. And although of the significance of it, we're still not sophisticated as we can be, comparing to IIP, for instance, and we are still not using the maximum that we can yield out of the monetization strategy. And today I'll try to touch how can we get better and what can we do different to make sure that we take our ad monetization strategy to the next level. I'll also divide the ad monetization world into two groups, like they should be divided. The first one will be user-initiated ads, when the user chooses to initiate the ads, which are always rewarded ads. You have a rewarded video and offer all mainly. And the second part will be system-initiated ads, such interstitial, banners, native, where the publisher is the one to initiate the ad. We'll start with rewarded ads. It's kind of the magical ad unit because, first of all, eCPMs are very, very good, right? Much higher than interstitial, banners, or other ad formats. But on top of having great eCPMs and great revenue source, the strength of rewarded ads is that the UX is very, very good. Because the user is watching an ad only if he chooses to, whenever he chooses to, and how often he chooses to, unlike the other format that we have out there. And the result of the fact that the user is the one to initiate the ad and the great UX is that unlike other ad units, when you use rewarded ads, you definitely doesn't hurt your intention, your session length, very, very important KPIs, and you need to make sure that you are not hurting your inner purchasing, of course. But more than that, not only you are not hurting these KPIs like other ad units, you can actually improve your retention and improve your session length by implementing rewarded ads in the right way. And it also makes sense, right? Because if a user is a non-paying user, and most of your users are non-paying users, whatever game you have, the fact that you give them another way to gain virtual good, you actually give them the way for the non-paying user to enjoy more content of the game, to make more progress, to play more and stay longer. And this is why you see this result. Also for in-app purchasing, tasting the feeling of virtual good of the game many, many times tease the user to actually make a purchase. And my bottom line in that sense is, before moving to speak about system-initiated ads, interstitials, banners, natives, which are all important ad units for many, many game developers. But before that, make sure that you are maximizing your rewarded ads and enjoying the total effect of this specific and unique ad unit. And the question will be, how will I optimize my rewarded ads? How will I know that I can feel comfortable with my rewarded ad implementation? And I'm going to answer this question in 3 steps. The first is to understand what KPIs should you monitor, then to understand what should be a good goal, what should be a good number per each KPI, and the third will be how do we get to the goal that we achieved, that we put to ourselves. And I'll start with what KPIs should you monitor when you're using rewarded ads. So in general, the equation of rewarded ads is relatively simple. The revenue that you are making is impressions times eCPM, right? If you have 1 million impressions a day, and you have $10 eCPM, you will make $10,000 ad revenue a day. And when we look at the left side of the equation, the number of impressions, as you can see it marked in blue, because this topic is only in the hands of the publisher itself, right? Any mediation network or any ad network that you use cannot affect your number of impressions. It can affect your eCPM that you get out of these impressions, but definitely not the number of impressions. And as we said, in rewarded ads, user-initiated ads, you are the one, the game developers, that need to make the user to choose to watch an ad and as often as you want to achieve. And to analyze how you get to the number of impressions, there are actually 2 important KPIs that you need to monitor. The first one will be engagement rate. Engagement rate means what share of user in percentage chooses on a daily basis to engage with rewarded video. It's their decision. It can be 10%, it can be 20%, it can be 60%. It depends on your implementation, and we will touch this as well. The second one will be your usage rate. On average, for each engaged user, how many videos he watches a day. And together, when you have these two, you understand how much total impression you generate out of your DAO. So if we take this as an example, out of an app that has 1 million daily active users, if your engagement rate is 40%, it means that 400K of your users choose to engage with rewarded video on a daily basis. And if your usage rate is 6 videos per user a day on average, for some it will be 4, for some it will be 8, then you generate a total of 2.4 million impressions. And this is your impression DAO rate. And you can see various games. Some games with 1 million DAO gets only 500,000 impressions, while other games with the same DAO, 1 million DAO, can get to 5 million impressions. And the difference can be 10x in revenue, 10x in the retention effect, and many, many others. And this is why it's so important to monitor it. Now, this is for the left side of the equation. For the right side of the equation, what eCPM you get for the impressions that you generate. So here it is in the performance world, which today is mainly performance world in the gaming. Brand is still small. The revenue that you generate per 1,000 impressions is the bid that the advertiser pays times the number of installs, right? If you have $2 pay per install and 4 installs per 1,000 impressions, you will have $8 eCPM. Now, the bid side, this depends only at the ad network themselves, and this is exactly the business model of the ad network, to build a relationship with the advertiser, to have variety of advertisers, to do right targeting and match the right advertiser to the right publisher, to do post-install events and many, many things that help us to maximize the bid that you can get. And the IPM, the installs rate that you get, depends on both sides. From one hand, the network needs to make sure that the creatives and the targeting is good enough to generate as many installs as possible, but also the publisher has a good effect on the number of installs, and it depends where did you locate the traffic driver. Because if you would locate the traffic driver of the rewarded video in the climax of the game, in the middle of an online fight, if you die, you can watch a video and go back to the game, probably the amount of installs that you get there will be very, very low, and though the eCPM. Well, if you have it in a more clean environment where the user is more open to engage with the ad, then your probability to generate an install is getting higher, and you will generate more revenue and higher eCPM for this. Another important thing to mention is that IPM, your install rate, you have better percentage to make an install in the first impression than in the fourth or sixth impression. This is why networks fight on the first look, because there are more installs there and more revenue there. And this also affects what I said before, because if you increase the engagement rate specifically and not the usage rate, you increase your bucket of first impressions. And then you will be generating more revenue. So 2.4, you can have 40% and 6 or 60% and 4. 60% and 4 will generate much more revenue for you, because with 60% engagement rate, you will have much more first impressions with much more installs and higher eCPM. This is why engagement rate is so important and affects your revenue, your total impressions, and your eCPM so much. Now, we understood what we want to monitor, right? We want to monitor engagement rate, usage rate, impression DAO rate, IPM. But what will be a good number to aim to achieve after analyzing your KPIs back home? So this is what we see across ironSource network and thousands of publishers. A good engagement rate, average one, will be about 30%. It means that 30% of your users choose to engage with rewarded video. While you can see that for top publishers, the one that leads the market, they get more closer to the 50, even 60% of engagement rate, because they are implementing the ad monetization in the right way. Same for usage rate, is 4 and 8, and the total impression DAO rate can be somewhere between 1 to 4, while 4 is a very, very good number. IPM, you can do the same calculation. It depends on the tier, on the genre, but 5 installs per 1,000 impressions in tier 1 will be a good number. Now, the last question is, how do you get? Okay, let's say that I got back home. I see that my engagement rate is 10%, and my usage rate is only 2, right? So it's bad news because my strategy is not good, but on the other hand, it's good news because I have a huge space to grow to. How do I improve my total KPIs? So first thing is to start ads from day one, or even start ads from day minus 200. Because when you build a game and plan it, you need to think about the ads in that stage. You need to build your virtual economy, thinking about, okay, where do I going to have rewarded video? What will I connect? Which reward I will connect? And stuff like this. And to educate the users to have rewarded video or other ad units from day one really helps with the engagement and becoming part of the game. Then you need to choose your reward, right? What am I going to give the user against watching an ad? And here there are a few important things. First of all, my recommendation is always try and distinguish between soft currency and hard currency. Hard currency of the game should always be connected to in-app purchasing, right? The user pays for the hard currency and it's the most significant currency in the game, while soft currency can be connected to rewarded video. It's much lower in value and different valuation in the game. And this really helps you with making sure that rewarded video will not cannibalize your in-app purchasing, right? If you get gems in the store, but you watch video for getting extra life or 5 minutes less waiting for the next box, then it's not even competing, and increasing your rewarded video strategy will not even affect your IIP. Having said that, even if you want to distinguish between the two, you have to make sure that the reward is valuable, right? If only for the sake of differentiation you will choose a very non-valuable reward, then your engagement rate and usage rate will be just very, very low, because you need to give a very good reason for the user to come back and watch a video day after day and to be engaged and to watch more than one. Then it should also be dynamic, and I see many times that publishers give the same reward in level 1 and level 100. In level 1, 10 coins probably means a lot to the user, and he will choose to watch a video for this. But if you keep the same reward in level 100, 10 coins probably means nothing in that point of the game, and you will just see your engagement rate going down and down. And in order to maintain it up and in a healthy value, you need to make sure that the reward is adjusted to the level of the game, to the need of the user. And my fourth point, it has to be diversified. Or it doesn't have to be, but if it is diversified, you probably will have higher engagement. It means that you can have reward for coins, and have reward for extra life, and have reward for extra spin, or shorten your waiting time for your next box to be open. And by having diversified of rewards, you are actually addressing more group of users and generate higher engagement rate. Timing, I spoke about it, it's also super important. It has to be in a clean timing to help the user to engage with the ad, to make an install if he's interested. At the end of the day, when you have ads in your game, you are serving both the user and the advertiser, and you want to make this connection as good as possible to generate more installs and more revenue. Therefore, it has to be in the beginning of the session or the end of the session, or places when the user feels comfortable to engage with the ad, and not in the middle of the climax of the game. It has to be visible. Many, many times publishers put the traffic driver, let's say, in the store itself. But if only 20% of the users get to the store itself, then your 100% potential is 20% of the users, because the other 80 won't even be aware that there is rewarded video. Therefore, my recommendation is always to have your traffic driver in a central locations in the app. It can be the main screen. It can be the screens that you know that all of the users go through. They will see in their eyes the option to watch rewarded video, and then they will take their decision. But if they will not see the option, then your engagement rate will be much, much lower. You can also, by the way, if you remember we spoke about engagement rate, it will affect twice. It will increase the number of impressions and increase your eCPM, because you'll have higher IPM and more installs. And you can always use also awareness and pop-ups to make the user engage more with rewarded video. It has to be clarity. The user needs to understand what he gets, and this is a traffic driver for rewarded video, because this can also hurt the engagement rate. And at the end of the day, it's a question of IIP against the revenue that you get from the ad monetization, and to make sure that it works well, distinguishing between the reward type and the IIP is always good. Capping and pacing, it's a tool, right? You are limiting the number of impressions for users to make sure that it doesn't hurt the IIP if it's not distinguished the same economy. Segmentation can be a great tool if you have the tools to do it. So, for example, if you know that and you can predict that a user won't be a paying user, then don't limit him. let him watch 20 videos a day. It's incremental revenue for you. There is no risk on cannibalizing IIP, definitely if you distinguish the coins, and then you will generate more revenue. And at the end of the day, I think that it's all a question of maximizing your LTV or ARPU, right? Maybe adding rewarded video will hurt 10% of your IIP, but it will add another 10 or 15 or 20% of value from rewarded ads revenue, and then it's worth the effort because you get higher LTV, higher ARPU, you can buy more users, and it affects your overall ecosystem. You need to test every game, react different to different configurations, and there is no better thing to do besides testing and finding what is the point that you are maximizing your revenue. I'll continue to a few slides about Offerall. Offerall, it's actually the complementary ad unit for rewarded video. It's the second rewarded ad unit. It actually also user-initiated ad unit with all the great UX effect, retention that we speak about. It's a wall of offers, right? The user can choose to click, and if you click, he can get to a page with different offers that he can complete and get a reward for it. In this, unlike rewarded video, a publisher gives the reward only when he gets paid, right? So if the user complete the action, then he gets paid from the advertiser and he gives the reward to the user, unlike rewarded video, where the publisher gives the reward for completion, but if there was no install, maybe there was not a revenue or transaction. It's a much longer process. It's definitely not part of the user for the game flow, and it's about 10 minutes of the user time. It's mainly CPE offers, install and get to level 3 or different things, and therefore it's very, very different from RV. You do not locate it in many, many places in the app. You put it in a clean places in the store, in the main screen, and it's more addressed to users that are willing to spend 10 minutes of their time to get a very, very big reward. Your average revenue per completion will be about $3. So this is very, very different, right? In RV, you get about 1.5, 2 cents in the United States for a completion of rewarded video. In Offerall, you will get about $3 for a completion. And all of this data actually makes Offerall to be kind of alternative payment method, right? It's for the savvy users that are willing to spend 10 minutes of their time now. They are not savvy enough to become payers, but they are savvy enough to spend 10 minutes of their time, and they will generate 20, 30, 40 bucks per user for you while engaging a few times with the Offerall. And it's exactly a second store, another store for you to generate significant revenue. It has to be connected to the hard currency of the game, right? Because you need to give to the user a reward equal to $3. So it has to be something big. This is the number that you should get in Offerall. You can take a picture or I can send it later on. I'll finish with system-initiated ads, interstitial, banners, and native. At the end of the day, we need to remember that 50% of our users will not pay and will not choose to engage with rewarded video or Offerall, and therefore the system-initiated ads are probably the only way for you to monetize them and to generate any incremental revenue from the others. For hyper-casual games with no strong virtual economy, it's probably the only strong monetization channel because they don't have virtual economy and reward to give to the user or to make a purchase. But the risk here, of course, unlike rewarded ads, is that it might hurt retention. It probably hurts retention. It might hurt session length. And it's a price that we can pay if we get the right benefit out of it. And this is 4 small tips. How do you make sure that you get the benefit of system-initiated ads while not hurting the other KPIs? First of all, timing and placement is critical, right? It has to be in a place that it doesn't bug the user too much, right? It can be in a clean places. End of session is a good place. Beginning of session might be a good place, depends. You have to make it in a decent and normal frequency or capping, right? My rule of thumb to maximizing this equation is about 3 impressions per session. More than that, you will probably won't generate extra revenue while you do hurt your retention and session length. The format is not less important than how many impressions do you show, right? So do you have X button from the beginning or only after 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 7 seconds, 10 seconds? Do I need to click once or do I need to click twice on 2 different X? This will affect your retention not less than showing another interstitial, and you have to keep it in mind and A/B test and find the right balance. And at the end of the day, I think that interstitial and banners are, again, an ARPU LTV decision. If you will add interstitial, and many of them, for sure your ARPTA will go up, right? For sure you have more monetization tool, it will be higher, but for sure your retention will go down. Whether it will generate higher LTV for you or not, whether two interstitial per session is the highest LTV you can achieve, or maybe 1, or maybe 3, or maybe 0. These are all the things that you have to A/B test, and to find what is generating the highest LTV that will help you to generate maximum revenue from the user and to be effective in user acquisition. 2 last slides about what a good implementation look like, because I think that Venture Capitalist by Congregate is one of the best apps in terms of ad monetization. For rewarded video, they have 3 placements. All the placements are in the main screen, a very clean place for the user to engage. There is variety of rewards to get from the engagement. You can have up to 8 impressions only before we started the session. Offer wall is in the main screen as well, and in the store connected to the hard currency, and all of these exactly make the implementation as best as possible and generate the highest performance for the app. So we are short in time, but to summarize, I think that ad monetization, definitely rewarded ads, are more than a revenue tool. It generates revenue, but also affect other KPIs of the game. It requires love, attention, professionalism, a lot of A/B testing to find the right balance. And if you know what the KPIs that you need to monitor, what goals you should set, and how together you can achieve much more from the app. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Nadav.